Okay, welcome to the course unit for the business of organized crime. So, dalawa kasi yung course unit for natin, business and typology. So, mag-uumpisa muna tayo kay the business of organized crime. So, this is the part 1 of course unit 4. So, what are the business of organized crime ba? So, number 1, we have drug trafficking. 'Di ba may subject kayong CRDI 332 ngayon, which is natakal din ang drug trafficking. So, drug trafficking is the illegal drug trade or drug trafficking in a global black market consisting of cultivation, manufacture, distribution, and sale of illegal drugs. So, lahat ang drug trafficking magsisimula binebenta yan sa global black market black market kasi tawag natin black market kasi it is illegal. So it consists of cultivation, so magsimula parang sa pagpapalaki ng mga halaman nila o ano man yung natural sources nila, manufacturing until dun sa kanilang distribution and sale of illegal drugs. So ang tawag doon ay drug trafficking. Now, so let's have the top 10 drug lords. Sino ba yung mga top 10 drug lords natin? Meet the world's most wanted traffickers in drugs. So, ito yung mga kartel na napag-aralan nyo din sa mga history ng drugs nyo. So, number 1, we have Joaquin Guzman Loera, aka El Capo, 'di ba? Guzman. So, siya yung sa Sinaloa Cartel. So, he was Guzman Loera Organizations and the Pacific Cartel. Okay po? So, it was known as El Capo or Shorty because of his 5'6 stature. Hindi siya ganun katangkaran. So, smuggles huge amount of illegal drugs into the US. So, sa US talaga siya operate. So, once escaped from high security jail by hiding in a laundry basket. So, isipin nyo yun, nakatakas na siya sa isang high security jail. So, kung sa atin parang maximum security by dahil maliit nga siya, kasya lang siya sa basket, 'di ba? He captured after 10 years of the run. So, after niyang nakatakas, ayan, so, after 20 years, nahuli din siya. Binigyan siya kasi ng reward na $5 million. And sa Mexico naman, $3.8 million or equivalent sa atin ng 16 million pesos. So, he was called the most powerful drug trafficker in the world. So, by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. So, he rated one of the most powerful people in the world every year since 2009 by Forbes magazine. So, he was considered as the godfather of the drug lord world. Tandaan nyo siya ha. He was considered as the godfather of the drug world. He surpassed the influence of Pablo Escobar. Alam ko merong movie to si El Capo. Diba? So, siya top 1. So, in 2013, the Chicago Crime Commission named Guzman's enemy number 1, El Capone. So, siya yun. Si Joaquin Guzman Loera. Next, we also have Frank Lucas. Sino ba yung mga Frank Lucas na yan? Former American heroin dealer naman siya. So, he cut out the middleman and imported heroin directly from Southeast Asia to the United States. So, sentenced to 17 years in prison after being convicted of drug charges. So, 5 years later, behind bars, having turned drug supergrass, he was released and went into witness protection program. So, siya, yung parang naging lang siyang whistleblower. Ganun. Next, Manuel Noriega. Sino si Manuel Noriega? He was former Panamanian politician and military officer. Sipin mo yan ha, military officer pa. He was military dictator of Panama from 1983 to 1989. So, he was removed from power by US during the invasion of Panama. So, he tried and convicted of drug trafficking, racketeering, and money laundering and sentenced to 30 years in prison. So, hindi lang siya focus sa drug trafficking. So, rin siya ng racketeering, money laundering, and ayun, na-sentence siya ng 30 years in prison. So, in 2011, he was extradited back to Panama to serve the rest of his sentence. So, kasi nakuha siya ng US. So, after nung 30 years niya, binalik din siya sa Panama. In 2011, yung the rest ng for 30 years in prison niya, tutuloy na lang niya sa Panama. So, Cali Cartel. Okay po. So we have Jonathan Almazan, Orawela, and Jose Santa Cruz Londono. So sa kanila yung Cali Cartel. A competitor of Medellin Cartel. If you could remember Medellin Cartel, 'di ba? Ito yung kay Pablo Escobar, 'di ba? Na natalo naman ni Cali Cartel ni Don Chepe, 'di ba? So he public face as respected businessman, and then they are involved in counterfeiting, kidnapping and importing cocaine from Peru and Bolivia to Colombia. So kasi 'di ba ang major production ng ating mga cocaine nan sa South America, sa Colombia, Peru and Bolivia. Manood kayo ng movie ng ano kasing tawag doon? Ah, I forgot the title of the movie, pero alam niyo yung kapag nagsusot siya ng parang executive suit, may power yung executive suit niya. Okay? We have now the si Oshel Cardenas Gillen. So, Gulf Cartel naman, he was known as the friend killer. Parang backstabber, no? Gillen killed his mentor to take over the Gulf Cartel in Mexico. So, syempre, money matters yan. So, as he fought with rival groups, he recruited 30 elite soldiers to form his own private army. And now, he was arrested noong 2003. So, that was Mr. Osel Cardenas Gillen. Then we have Ismael Zambada Grizia. So one of the Sinaloa cartel leaders. It is one of the biggest drug lords in the world. Okay. So, 'di ba kanina nga yung pinaka number one natin, si El Capo. Ngayon, so one of the biggest drug lords in the world din siya. Sa Sinaloa cartel din. So he imports cocaine and heroin to Chicago and the other US cities. So, paano niya na-import yan? By the use of train, ship, jet, and even submarine. Ganun sila katindi, di ba? Next, we have, Pablo Escobar. Meron din movie yan. So, we have Medellin Cartel. Sa kanya yan. So, the most notorious and violent Colombian drug gun. So, at the height of his power, Pablo Escobar was said to be the seventh richest man in the world. O, dahil nga, puro sa drug trafficking, di ba? Thought to be behind up to 80% of all the cocaine shipped to the United States. So, at least 5,000 people were killed by that cartel, okay? By the cartel. So, US trained Colombian task force and the Los Pepes, sabi nga nila, a shadowy organization, Escobar's enemies, made up of family members as of his victims and financed by Escobar's main business. So, the rival nun is yung Cali Cartel. Kasi nauna sa Colombia, talaga, is yung Medellin Cartel. Nung matatalo na siya, nung nakot na si Pablo Escobar, ang nag-rise na yung kay Cali Cartel. Next, we have Curtis Kaki Warren. So, ito. So, Curtis Kaki Warren. A drug boss Warren was once so wealthy and he featured on the Sunday Times rich list with a fortune of 198 European million pa ha. So, who Britain's most notorious drug trafficker? Okay? So, formerly Interpol's Target 1 and the Liverpoolian is currently serving a 13-year prison term for importing 1 million of cannabis into Jersey. Grabe. Then we also have Amado Carrillo Fuentes. Siya naman or Mexican Fuentes was one of the world's richest men with an estimated $25 billion in the bank and was transporting 4 times more cocaine in the US than any other trafficker in the world. Siya naman yung mas madami siyang napapasok na drugs sa US. So, known as the Lord of the Skies. Okay po? Again, Amado Carrillo Fuentes was known as the Lord of the Skies because of his fleet of 727 jet airliners to transport Colombian cocaine into Mexico. Grabe, 'di ba? Nangyayaman nila habang dahil mahal kasi yung drugs noon. So lahat gagawin nila para lang ma-export, ma-import lahat ng drugs na binebenta nila. Sipin mo yan, meron siyang 727 jet airliners noon. Na ano niya, I mean, na paano niya, ganun kadalas or ganun kadami yung napalipad niya na merong mga illegal drugs. So, he died in 1997 in a Mexican hospital while undergoing extensive plastic surgery to change his appearance. Siyempre, ayaw niyang makulong. Ang gagawin nila is magkakaroon, parang magpapapalit ng muka. Diba? Next, we have also Freeway Rick Ross, diba? Many named Ross as the man responsible for the crack cocaine epidemic in America. So, he once claimed to be selling $3 million of crack cocaine daily. Grabe, ganun kadami sa isang araw lang. So, he was arrested in 1996 to sell 100 kilos of coke to undercover police officer. So, merong nag-bypass operation sila doon. Tapos, yun, doon siya nahuli. Tapos, in 1996, Ross was sentenced to life behind bars after trying to purchase more than 100 kilograms na naman of cocaine from a federal agent. Grabe naman to. So, he was released in 2009 after the sentence was reduced on appeal and because he was a model prisoner. So, gumamit siya ng GCTA niya. Okay, next naman na business is trafficking in person. So, do you know what is trafficking in person? Diba, meron din kayong subject ngayon, which is traffic management. When we say traffic, it is the movement of a person, diba, or a thing, or animal. That is a traffic. Ito naman, trafficking in person. So, trafficking of persons, it is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, or harboring or receipt of persons with or without the victim consents or knowledge. Again, with or without. Pwedeng alam mo or pwedeng wala kang alam or wala kang consent or wala kang knowledge. So, within or across national borders by any means for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation niya, prostitution, forced labor, slavery, servitude, removal, or sale of organs. So, yung trafficking of persons, iba-iba yung services niya. Is either gagawin kang prostitute, pagtatrabahuin ka doon, 'di ba? Gagawin kang alila, removal, or parang kukuhanin nila yung mga organs mo, ipagbebenta ka nila. So, that is trafficking of person. So, anong pinagkaiba ng trafficking versus human smuggling? Okay. Sa trafficking, it usually involves coercion. Pero sa human smuggling, it usually does not involve coercion. Okay po? Sa trafficking din, it characterized by subsequent exploitation after the illegal entry of a person into a foreign country. Okay po? So, parang yun kaninang example exploitation. Kapag naman dito sa human smuggling, it characterized by facilitating for a fee the illegal entry of a person into a foreign country. Parang, magbabayad ka lang, okay po? Para lang makapasok ka dun sa isang or magkaroon ka ng access or makalipat ka sa isang country. Sa trafficking, considered human right issue. Sa atin namang human smuggling, considered a migration issue. Okay? Sa trafficking, kasi human right issue kasi talagang exploitation. Sa human smuggling, alam niyo yung, 'di ba, meron tayong mga national borders. For example, nakakapunta sila ng Malaysia, yung sa mga karatig bansa natin. Kahit hindi sila dumadaan sa sa Manila or 'di ba kailangan pag nag-abroad tayo, dadaan muna ng mga migration procedures, ganyan. So, yung human smuggling, yun yung tinutukan niya, yung nag-e-entry sila dun sa mga routes natin, entry and exit points ng bansa natin. Okay po? So, parang illegal migration sila. Yun ang human smuggling. Okay po? Next. So, the most common destination for victims of human trafficking are, eto na, saan ba sila madalas dinadala? Yung mga victims ng human trafficking, number 1, Thailand. Okay? Usually, ginagawa silang entertainer. So, tapos Japan, and then Israel, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Italy then, Turkey, and the US. This is according to the report of UNODC or United Nations Office. Okay po. Then, We also have the major sources of traffic persons. Yung kanina, saan dinadala? Okay, ito naman, saan naman kinukuha yung mga traffic person na yan? Ito, we have Thailand, China, Nigeria, Albania, Bulgaria, Belarus, Moldova, and Ukraine. So, itong mga bansang to, madalas, yung mga tao dito, nata-traffic po sila. Or I mean, sila yung mga victim ng ating human trafficking. So, causes of human trafficking. Bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng human trafficking? It is because, syempre, unang-una, poverty. Kahirapan. Kaya, syempre, kakagat sila sa patilim. Akala nila, giginhawa buhay nila kung mag-abroad sila or ganyan. So, uneven economic development, family orientation and values. Pwede rin yan kasi sa family eh. Minsan kasi, di ba, yung mismong pamilya nila, yung talagang nag-aalaw pa na pumasok sila sa ganong activities. Weak enforcement of laws, syempre yan. Kulang kasi talaga tayo nang nag-check sa mga national borders natin. Then, corruption, and lastly, the immediate benefits of working abroad. 'Di ba? Kapag na mahirap ang isang tao, tapos binigyan sila ng opportunity makapag-abroad, o dadalhin kita sa abroad, ganito ganyan. 'Di ba? Lalo na kung hindi naman sila ganun mataas ang pinag-aralan, ang nangyayari, kakagat talaga sila doon. 'Di ba? Talagang sige, kahit mono sila, kahit wala silang alam, makakapag-abroad sila. So, human trafficking is the third most prevalent transnational crime. When we say transnational crime, di ba, ang nangyayari doon is siya across the nations, 'di ba? Hindi lang siya sa isang bansa. Again, human trafficking is the third most prevalent transnational crime. So, we have the illegal recruitment. So, RA 8042 or so yung mga nagre-record dito, yung nagre-recruit and it was later amended by RA 122. So, they are canvassing, 'di ba? Naghahanap sila, enlisting, contracting, transporting, utilizing, hiring, or procuring of workers, which includes referring, di ba, contract services, promising, or advertising for employment abroad, di ba, whether for profit or not, when undertaken by a non-licensed or non-holder of authority. Yung kaya, basta madaming na-scam dyan eh. Kung hindi man sila nagkaroon ng human trafficking sa ibang bansa, yung successfully naman na napunta sila sa ibang bansa, 'di ba? Yung iba naman, nagbabayad sila, 'di ba, ng placement fee, ganyan ganyan. Tapos hindi na-scam lang sila, na dadalhin sila sa abroad, isang agency, tapos scam lang pala. Okay. Yung iba naman, ganito sasabihin nila ng placing agency kasi yan, ito yung trabaho mo, ganyan ganyan, tapos pagkapunta mo sa ibang bansa, iba yung trabaho mo. That is illegal recruitment. Next, we have modus operandi of illegal recruiters. Ano ba yung mga modus operandi ng mga illegal recruiters na yan? Madami yan. So, number one is tourist worker scheme. What is tourist worker scheme? Workers leave the country as tourists but are actually leaving for employment abroad. So, yung ba ginagawa nila, tourist lang. Di ba tourist visa ka lang kasi kapag nasa ibang bansa ka na. Tapos, kapag nandun ka na, madalas yan yung mga napapanood nyo sa telenovela, MMK, ganyan, di ba? Tourist visa. Tapos, ang mangyayari nun, pagka punta nila sa bansang yon, okay, hindi na sila makakauwi kasi ang tourist visa maglalas lang yan 2 months alam ko. Dapat meron ka working visa. 2 to 6 months ang tourist visa sa ibang bansa. Then next we have escort services. Ito naman, workers are escorted at the airports and seaports and allowed to leave even without the required travel documents. Yung escort services naman, parang meron silang kakilala sa loob ng airport. So, or seaport. So, kaya okay lang makaalis or makalabas sila kahit walang travel documents. So, nag-corrupt na sila ng another officers dyan. Then, we also have blind ads. Yung blind ads naman, advertisements for overseas employment published in dailies do not indicate the name of the recruiter but provides a PO box to which application may be submitted. Yung blind ads, yung hindi naman nila pag sinabing blind ads, hindi nila pinaprovide kung sino yung recruiter. Tapos, bibigyan lang ng Kaya tinitingnan mo din kapag nag-a-apply kayo if legit ba yan or hindi. Kasi minsan, lalo na kung pinopost lang sa FB, hindi po legit yung iba. Minsan, illegal recruiter sila. Lalo na kung walang name yung company. Okay po? Next, we have bike correspondence. Ito namang bike correspondence, applicants are encouraged to submit their requirements through mail together with seemingly minimal fee. Ayan. Yung sinasabi ko may placing fee. So, yun naman parang magsasubmit sila ng requirements and then magbabayad sila. So, illegal recruiter. Another ano yun. Then, we have backdoor exits. Ito, ayan. Yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina. Yung parang sa human smuggling. Diba? Workers live through the southern ports of exits where immigration control is lax. Yan. Yung minsan nga, diba, nakakapunta sila ng Sabah, Malaysia nang hindi naman sila dumaan ng airport. So, they usually live on cargo ships or on boats. Yan. Next, we have assume identity. Assume identity naman, workers live under another name, either using the name of another worker or through the backlash system. Parang nag-ano sila, ibang identity ang ginagamit nila. So, obtaining passports through fake birth certificates and other documents. And ang kadalasan, okay, ang ginagamit nila dito is yung mga minors. Kasi 'di ba bawal pa 'yon, bawal silang lalo na bawal silang magtrabaho. Minors are usually deployed through this scheme. Assume identity. Yung mga ganyan, ang target kasi ng mga illegal recruiters na yan, yung halos yung mga alam nating walang pinag-aralan or parang walang alam sa mundo. Yung agad nilang nauuto. Okay po. Next, we have direct hiring. Para naman direct hiring. Workers are recruited directly by the foreign employer and deployed either as tourists or through any of the other illegal means. Okay po. Parang yung kanina lang yan. Parang, pero naman tong foreign employer agad. Okay? Tapos, madedeploy sila as tourists and then, yun na, para magiging TNT na ulit. Next, we have trainee workers scheme naman. Workers are recruited and deployed as trainees on a training agreement. More often, HRM students living in the guise of the traineeship program for hotels abroad but eventually landing jobs in hotel restaurants abroad. Yan yung trainer worker scheme. Madalas yan sa mga HRM student. Alam ko nagkaganyan ng issue dito sa school natin eh. Kapag nagustuhan sila doon sa mismo, kasi lalo na kapag nag-OJT sila sa ibang bansa, tapos nagustuhan nila na parang okay yung pasahod doon kahit trainee sila, kinukuha na sila as employee. Diba? So, ganun. Trainee worker scheme, parang mag-OJT ka, pero labas na is after nun meron ka na talagang trabaho doon. Next is visa assistance or immigration consulting scheme. Ito naman, ito yung scam talaga. Diba? Entities operating under the guise of consulting or offering services for visa facilitation are actually engaged in recruitment by offering placement, yung sasabi placement fee, abroad on immigrant visa. Some of them also operate through the conduct of orientation seminars which are actually recruiting activities. So, yun yung mga nagbayad ka na mag-abroad ka tas wala namang nangyari sa 50,000. Minsan, kadalasan ang hinihingi nila more than 50,000 to 200,000. Next, we have camouflage participants, representatives in seminars, sports, and events. So, workers live as participants in seminars or sports events abroad but actually intend to work there. So, parang minsan, parang seminar lang, sports events lang. After nun, magtatrabaho sila. So, yun mga scheme nila para lang magkaroon ng human trafficking or mga illegal recruiter. Next is mail order bride scheme. Alam niyo to? Yung parang arranged marriage. So, marriage is arranged by brokers between Filipino women and foreigners. Kadalasan po, hanggang ngayon, merong ganyan. So, the Filipino wife ends up being a domestic helper to her husband and his family or in worse situations abroad. So, yung iba, akala nila, di ba, mag-aasawa sila. Mag-asawa niya kanong-kano, banta kano, yumaman niya, di ba? So, ang kadalasan, yung mga gustong mag-abroad para mas mabilis yung ginagawa nila, okay, nag-aasawa sila ng kano. Ganyan, 'di ba? Or yung mga taga-ibang bansa. After nilang nag-asawa ng mga foreigner na 'yan, dahil nga nag-asawa sila, automatically pwede niyang dalhin 'yan sa ibang bansa. So, yun yung parang nagiging visa nila, 'di ba? So, after nun, kapag napunta na sila sa mismong abroad, ang nangyayari, okay, hindi naman talaga sila asawa doon. Ang nangyayari, helper po sila. Okay? So, parang gawa-gawa lang yung, parang ang nangyayari, ano lang yung kasal na yun. Parang magiging visa lang niya para makapunta sa ibang bansa. Next is tie-up or kabit system. So, tie-up or kabit system, this is the unlicensed recruiters tie up with the licensed agencies. Or parang nakikiano lang sila, illegal recruiter sila, tapos nakikiano sila dun sa mga legal na, or yung mga licensed agencies, and recruit workers through the facilities of the latter. So, workers are either deployed under the job order of the licensed agency but actually work for another employer abroad, or the foreign principal of the unlicensed recruiter is registered or accredited under the licensed agency's name. So, yung mga taya, parang nakikipag-coordinate or nakikipag-coordinate sila doon sa mga licensed na recruiter talaga. So, pero ang totoo, iba yung employer nila, or iba talaga yung agency nila. Usually, illegal kasi yun. Okay? Kaya nga sabihan tie-up or kabit system. Para lang mapalabas na legal yung proseso nila, ang gagawin nila, pupunta sila doon sa mismong merong license na agency para hindi maging kahina-hinala na illegal recruiter sila. Next, we have the adoption method. So, adoption of children to smuggle out of the country. So, ito, foreigners will pretend to adopt them. Kadalasan po, ito yung kawawa. But the reality, they will be sold to labor markets and prostitution din. So, yung kanwari, aampunin daw siya ng gatong taga-ibang bansa. Tapos, ang sasabihin niya, para meron siyang anak. Pero ang totoo, pagkadating niya sa ibang bansa, dadalhin niya sa labor markets pagtatrabahuin or gagawing prostitute. Next, we also have family tours. This was organized by Unscrupulous. Pag sinabi natin unscrupulous, it means ito yung mga immoral, 'di ba? Travel agency to have one bogus family. So, somebody will pretend as a parents, and hindi makatotohanan to and children will use tampered documents to complete the bogus family. Unscrupulous, it means hidden or hindi totoo. Okay po. Next, yan. Roots of human trafficking. This is the exit point dito. And exit point. Ayan. Sa dagat lang halos mismo. Okay po, dito. Next, we have, ayan. The identified seaports used to smuggle person in and out of the country, both aliens and Filipinos. Ito, we have Ilocos Sur, doon sa Salamogue Island. We also have the Zamboanga del Sur, doon sa Zambo Port nila. We have in the Davao del Sur, Bicol, Dagupan City, and other places near the coastal areas. Ito nga, sabi sa inyo, dito, sa mga dagat-dagatan natin. Next, we have arms trafficking, weapons smuggling. So, when we say arms trafficking or weapons smuggling, it is the transnational importation of illegal firearms, mostly small arms, by governments and insurgents in war zone regions. So, definitions. Firearms, diba? What is firearms ba? So, it includes rifles, muskets, different types of firearms. Carbines, shotguns, revolver, pistol, and all other deadly weapon from which a bullet, ball shot, shell, or other missile may be discharged by means of gunpowder or other explosives. So, the barrel of firearm shall be considered as complete firearm. So, loose firearms naman, okay, means ito yung mga unregistered or unlicensed. Okay po. So, sino ba yung mga clients na kumukuha ng illegal firearms? Siyempre, police and number one, tignan nyo, police and military. So, minsan, ginagamit nila yan. Kasi kapag unlicensed yan, hindi nila alam kung kanino galing yung bala, diba? We have politicians, ayan, people under threat, OCGs, insurgents, yan, secessionist group, terrorist groups, criminals, and others. Pero still, tignan mo, pati politician and police nasasama sila. Kasi po, minsan, Okay? Hindi natin maiiwasan yan na gagamitin nila yan sa maling paraan. Or hindi naman natin nga sinasabi na lahat naman ng politician and police tama, 'di ba? Next, we have money laundering. 'Di ba? From the word itself, laundering. So, parang naglalaba tayo ng pera. Pero hindi naman literally nilalaban. So, paano ba nilalaban ng pera? Sabi niya, the monetary proceeds of criminal activity are converted into funds with an apparent legal source. 'Di ba? Parang pinapakita sa money laundering, dirty money to. Pero ipapalabas nila sa publiko, it is a product of legal money or parang legal source. So, money laundering suggests a cycle of transaction in which the illegitimate dirty money the comes out clean after being processed into a legitimate legal source. So, we have AMLA, 'di ba? So, money laundering, sabi naman niya, it is a crime whereby the proceeds of unlawful activity are transacted, thereby making them appear to have originated from legitimate sources. So, parang ang sinasabi ko sa inyo, paulit-ulit lang, pinapalitaw natin na yung sources ng ating mga illegal monies na yan ay legitimate sources. So, paano ba nila napapalitaw na legitimate sources yung mga yan? So, turning of dirty money into clean money. Paano? So, we have 3 steps. The plea. We have placement, layering, and integration. Placement, also called immersion or smurfing. Then layering, also called heavy soaping. And integration, also called spin dry. So, isa-isay natin. Placement. Tawag nga dyan ay immersion or smurfing. So, ano ba yan? It represents the initial entry of dirty money cash or proceeds of crime into the financial system. So, this stage serves 2 purposes. Number 1, it relieves the criminal of holding and guarding large amount of a bulky cash. And then, it places the money into legitimate financial system. So, smurfing. Ito yung papasok nila yung pera nila sa isang bangko. Ganyan, 'di ba? Ito sabi nga natin, smurfing. Ito na yung parang yan, kailangan mo nilang ipasa sa ibang bangko. Okay? Placement kasi kailangan mo muna ngang ilagay doon. Next, so dapat sa legitimate financial system, sa mga bangko po, ganyan nga. Smurfing ang tawag doon. Then, we have layering, also called heavy soaping. So, it involves frequent series of money transfer. So, for example, napasok mo na sa bangko yung pera, ang mangyayari dito niyan is layering na. Paano yon? Pagpapasapasahan na. Okay? Pagpapasapasahan na involves the frequent series of money transfers and transactions used to cover the tracks of the illegal funds. Ito yung heavy soaping kasi para hindi nila matrace. Kasi 'di ba, kung kanwari daily ganito yung pumapasok na pera sa iyo. Alam ko nga kapag 500,000 na yung i-deposit mo sa isang bangko, naghahanap na sila ng proof, 'di ba, kung saan mo galing 'yun. So ito namang syempre to cover those tracks, ang ginagawa nila, heavy soaping. So kung saan after niyang makapasok or na-place na yung pera, ang gagawin nila is tawag doon, to cover yung tracks na yon, pagpapasapasahan na yung pera na yan. Okay? So, para hindi mapansin, heavy soaping nga, patong-patong na. So, structuring the use of the electronic methods is the most effective layering. Ang ginagamit nila, di ba, mayroong mga online banking. So, ang ginagawa nila, magta-transfer sila ng pera sa different accounts. Okay po? That is layering. After nun, meron silang integration. Ito na, also called spin dry naman. Bakit? Money is returned to the criminal from what seem to be legitimate sources. So, after nun, okay, di ba, napasok nila sa isang bangko, naging legitimate siya. After nilang napalagay doon, syempre, magkakaroon ng different transactions. After noon, okay, ng transactions na yun, kukuhanin din nila ulit. Di ba kasi nga bawal nga tayo mag-withdrawan ng tawag doon, misana na 500,000, hindi ka pwede makakapag-withdraw ng ganyan eh. Di ba may limit lang. So, ang gagawin nila, dahil nga marami ng credit cards, yun na yung ating tinatawag na heavy soaping. After nun, mapupunta na yung pera sa kanila. So, when the money is returned to the regular economy through purchase investment, the launderer then makes the proceeds available to the criminals in apparently illegitimate form. Ito na yung yung pera, i-convert nila into a investment. Ito yung bibili sila ng kotse, bibili sila ng bahay. So, therefore, wala nang trace na saan napunta yung pera. Diba? So, legitimate na siya. So, ganun ang ginagawa nila tatlo. Placement, layering, tapos integration. Next naman, we have the loan sharking. Paano naman ang loan sharking? It refers to the lending of money at excessively high rates of interest. Itong loan sharking, alam yung mga nagpa 5-6. Yan. Kapag or yung parang mas mataas pa yung interest. So, loan sharking embraces two central features. The assessment of exorbitant or too high interest rates in extending the credit and the use of threats and violence in collecting debts. Another naman is kapag naniningil sila, ginagamit nila yung pananakot, 'di ba, violence para lang masingil sila. So that is loan sharking. Next, and the last one is the prostitution. Yung iba dyan, nagising-gising siguro, kauma-umaga pa lang, okay? So, prostitution, the act or practice of providing sexual services to another person in return for payment. Balibago, mapasok sa utak nyo, di ba? People who execute such activities are called prostitutes. So, prostitution is one of the branches of the sex industry. So, the legal status of prostitution varies from country to country. So, from being a punishable crime to a regulated profession. So, minsan dati punishable crime siya and then ngayon regulated profession na siya. So, it described as the world's oldest profession po ang prostitution. Dati pa kasi yan eh. Pero hindi naman natitigil. Okay po? So, bakit yun sa Balibago? Natitigil ba? Hindi naman, 'di ba? Kahit may mga pulis, ganyan. Minsan pa nga, pulis pa mismo ang nagiging client nila. So, that is the part of our course unit for that business types of the business, yung business na ginagawa ng mga OCG natin. So, see you mamaya for our part 2 of course unit for typologies naman ng ating organized crime. So, there you have it and thank you.